I'm sitting here, I literally sit in Mountain View, California, which is the headquarters of Google. And Google schedule a meeting at 6 or 7 p.m. After 6 p.m., you don't have to say yes to a meeting, but 80% of your team don't have kids. And you're part of the 20% that do. Well, I'm not going to go to that meeting. And that works once, maybe twice, but it's not going to work every week.
Welcome to the My Future Business Show, where we get you in front of your best audience and keep you there. Not only are we interviewing the biggest names in business to help you become even more successful, we're inviting you to book your spot on the show to help you grow your business. So at the end of the call, make sure you fill in the interview application form at myfuturebusiness.com/interviews. Hi and welcome to the My Future Business Show. My name's Rick Nuske and I'm your host, and it's wonderful to be back with you. Now today I'm on the line with Elisabeth Stitt, who is the founder of Joyful Parenting Coaching. Welcome to the show, Elisabeth.
Hi, Rick. Thanks so much for having me on the show.
That's absolutely my pleasure. It's wonderful to have you here. Now, for anybody who is a parent, you know that there are challenges that we face day to day, and they are so vast and varied that it's very difficult to know what's right and where you should go for guidance on how to get it right as a parent. So today we're going to be talking about joyful parenting. Could you tell us a little bit about what that's all about, Elisabeth?
I mean, personally, I think that if you're going to put as much time and effort into a job as we put into our parenting, that will be some fun. It is, 20 years of flat out work. And you wouldn't stick with any other job that you didn't absolutely love for 20 years. So I really am on a mission to help parents see where parenting can be fun, how they can use the systems and routines and just really basic parenting skills in their homes to make things go more smoothly, so that there is time for the fun part of being a family and being a parent.
So before we go into the nuts and bolts of your coaching business and how it helps parents, could we go into a little bit about your backstory and how you got to be a coach in your business, Joyful Parenting?
Sure, yeah. I taught middle school. Well, I taught for 25 years, and most of my career was spent with middle school. And I saw first a change in my kids, in my students, and then I began to see a change in the parents too. And it was in that change that prompted me to go like, wow, parents are so isolated today and suffering so much because of that. And, I really want to be able to help them. So insane or not insane, I gave up my tenured teaching job and jumped into starting my business.
So it's not easy to transition from somewhere where you've had that, I guess, that stable background as a teacher and going into your own business in coaching. Was it a difficult transition?
In many ways, yes, it was. It's been a ton of fun, but, there's really nothing about teaching that prepares you for being a solo entrepreneur. And so I've been on a super steep learning curve, and sometimes it was just all the times I was lecturing my students about, sticking with it and trying, not seeing failure as an end point, but just as a jumping off point to the next thing. Now I'm really having to walk to walk, and it's good because, when I meet former students, I can look them in the eye and say, yep, really have to reach down and find my grit and be resilient. So
Our audience is primarily beginner entrepreneurs and those who are in existing businesses. But for the most part, this is really focusing on those same people, those same entrepreneurs, same business owners who are actually also parents. What would be some of the major challenges that parents today are facing?
So let's think about that a little bit, because, parents have been parenting for eons, right? So the job has always been there. And I really do think that there are some reasons why the job has gotten harder. My kids are now 21, 22, and 24. I think it's even harder for parents than it was for me 20 years ago. And, one of the big changes is that none of us, it seems, are parenting in homogeneous societies. So, you used to kind of parent in neighborhoods with other people who had similar beliefs, similar religious backgrounds. Maybe you were in the neighborhood where, or at least in the community where your own parents had grown up. so that you didn't spend so much time second guessing yourself as a parent because you kind of looked around and got the Greens on one side of me and I got the Smiths on another side. What are they doing? And okay, they're doing kind of much the same thing. I'm going to do that.
Hmm.
And in most of the world today, that's not true. Our communities are much more mixed, ethnically mixed, racially mixed, philosophically mixed. And so you've got really different examples of what people are doing to say what is the right way to parent. And that's not a bad thing in terms of, yes, there are lots of different ways to be an effective parent. But if you are a brand new parent, you no longer have a sort of like game plan for how to be that parent. So the fact that we don't have these common communal values does make it much harder for us. So that's one reason.
Hmm.
And, I can certainly say that this is true. I live in Silicon Valley. It's 100% true in Silicon Valley. But even as I've traveled around the United States, I've seen that it's true for other communities as well. And that is that, society does not support parenting. We used to have structures in place that sort of helped all of the parents along. Part of that was that, there was a rhythm to the workday where kids went to school and then they came home. But by 6 o'clock, our school activities would shut down. And there was this thing called family dinner. And, I was a child of phones that were attached to the wall. And if that phone rang during dinner time, nobody answered it because you knew it was the telemarketers. And if it wasn't, if it was important, people would call back. And so, there was an hour or two in the evening where families could sort of count on a little parentheses of time in the day when there weren't PTA meetings and there weren't city council meetings and play practice didn't start until 8 o'clock and nobody expected 10 different directions during that time. Fast forward 2018, we all have our cell phones with. That means our bosses, our employers, our clients, our teammates all expect to be able to reach out to us and get a response. Again, I'm sitting here, I literally sit at Mountain View, California, which is the headquarters of Google. And Google schedule a meeting at 6 or 7 p.m. After 6 p.m., you don't have to say yes to a meeting, but 80% of your team don't have kids. And you're part of the 20% that do. Well, I'm not going to go to that meeting. And that works once, maybe twice, but it's not going to work every week. And it's not going to work a couple times a week. You're going to feel disconnected from your team. You're going to feel like you're being left out. You're going to feel undervalued. And then there's going to be this tremendous tension between what you need to do in order to support your family and what you need to do with just on-the-ground parenting, face-to-face parenting with your kids. I think it's really making things much harder for us, and it's hurting. Another example of that is the way that teams also seem to have no schedule that says, like, this is the day we play sports or this is when we have games. And for me, nadir of this was my younger son made the champion baseball team, and he let me know that it was going to be Father's Day. So there must be a mistake. And I don't know. So I called and I said, my son said it was on Father's Day, but it'd be a mistake. They're like, yeah, no, it's going to be great. All the dads can come down and watch the game. Well, in some ways you think, okay, dads in baseball, maybe that makes sense. But my husband's Indian. He has no interest in baseball. Zip, zilch, zero, right? And what does that mean for the other two kids who are not on the team? And the focus is on the kid, not on the dad. This is Dad's day. And plus, we had reservations. And so the decision was made that he would not participate. Thank you for the honor of being recognized, but no, he will not show up to the championship. You can't imagine, or maybe you can, Rick, the layers that I got and the rolled eyes, the sneers, and the snide comments of like, what a shame the kids lost the game.
Oh, no. So they're trying to put the onus of responsibility back on you.
Right, exactly. Instead of being appalled that Father's Day, which is like on the calendar, it's on the national calendar, it's printed right
It's
there.
in there.
It's in there. It's not even like a strange thing which doesn't, which is unique to our family or our culture or something else. Nope, it's right there for everybody to see. And so, this is the kind of example that comes up over and over and over. Over and over, parents are asked to weigh What's more important, this kid's individual development, this kid's individual chance to shine versus the needs of the whole family to be together.
Mm, mm.
And that didn't used to happen to the same degree. Yes, there were, theater performances or something else, but it wasn't the rule. So society not supporting parents is another stressor. And, when you set out to be a good parent, it's hard enough just dealing with your own kids without having to have this separate energy that says, I am going to be the leader in my family, and that requires me to put some really strong boundaries around our family time and our family commitments,
Mm-hmm.
and to be willing to, take the flack that I get, to say to my colleague, I will not attend a meeting at 6 p.m. at night. We spend family time on Sunday afternoons.
This is about routine and regularity, isn't it?
Because I'm a teacher, I am a big believer in systems and routines,
Mm-hmm.
setting up rituals which really bind the family together. And, one of the things I do with clients is I always ask them, and I could ask you today, Rick, when you think of happy memories, what are 2 or 3 things that come to mind?
I would say growing up on our street and having the ability to walk up and down the street and talk to anybody in any house on that street and know everybody. That's some of the fond memories that I would have, in that time that you would get to spend together, because at that time there wasn't as much technology.
Yeah, yeah, nice. And what you've said echoes so many of what other parents that I've talked to said. Again, parents sitting on the porch talking, kids out in the street playing, the parents are nearby, the ball rolls into Mrs. Gabardi's yard, and you got to go get it. You got to pause for a moment, say, hey, Mrs. Gabardi, how's it going? Hey, Joey, what's up with you?
Mm-hmm.
And those relationships that you have and that kind of sense. And again, that's that communal value, even if it's, that physical presence. Technology is probably, if we graphed the changes that I felt that I was seeing with parents, if we kind of lined it up with different technological developments, certainly the addition to the smartphone to the parenting equation is, we're going to be looking, it's the studies right now aren't super clear because it hasn't been long enough. And so lots of different studies are being done, and everyone kind of has the caveat of, well, further studies need to be done and we can't be fully conclusive. But when you kind of look at them together as a lump, we're not seeing good things. We're seeing pretty strong effects.
What would be some of the responses that you would have for parents who are facing similar things?
When it comes to developing the communal values, that's not going to happen in terms of who are in your physical circle.
Mm-hmm.
It just doesn't, it just isn't. It's not who's moving in next door. It's not who's across the street. It's not who's in your team at work. So what I help parents do is I help them to really spend some time digging in and exploring their own past and looking at the messages that they grew up with as children, messages about, relationships and gender roles and responsibility and work and money, and to articulate and get out on the table, what are the beliefs that I grew up with? Have they served me or have they not served me? Or how have they served me? Are they something that I want to pass on to my child? Are they something I don't want to pass on to my child? And then your spouse is doing the same work, hopefully, if you've got a spouse,
Mm-hmm.
or, a parenting partner. And then the two of you can kind of come together and look and see, where do we together have some values that we could really sort of hang our hat onto.
Yeah, well, look, I remember feeling my way through parenting for the first 2 years at least.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And in fact, one of my favorite classes, I help parents of kids of all ages, but one of my really favorite classes that I teach is called Transition to Parenthood. And my ideal client for that class is a pregnant family they're just becoming a family, right? Shifting from couplehood to familyhood, from couples to parenthood. Unfortunately, it's only a 4-hour workshop. It is a wonderful launching pad for having many, many, many conversations that it probably doesn't occur. We're having the conversation about what kind of stroller do we want. But when do we have the conversation that says, hey, Rick, what are your core child rearing philosophies? what do you think your style is going to be? Or what was your parents' style? And how did you like their style? How do you want to do it? And some stuff you can't answer until you actually experience it yourself.
Yeah.
But you can make some guesses, and even making the guesses is a good start. Like, how long do you think you're going to be willing to let your child cry? Is it 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000? There's some stuff we just don't know is going to come up, right? Honestly, we don't spend any time thinking about parenting. I think people spend time thinking about, do they want to be parents or do they not want to be parents? But they don't actually kind of get into the nitty-gritty of, like, and it's funny, I love sometimes asking random questions of parents, because they'll get into big arguments, and on the one hand they'll feel like, well, okay, this is kind of a stupid argument to be having right now, our kid isn't even born yet. But it's always so related. So you ask a question like, hey, Rick, how do you feel about hand-me-down item versus going to the store and buying something new for your child? Are you imagining that your child is going to be clothed through going to the next new shop, to the Goodwill? Or, in some families, you might not have an opinion. It might be, I don't care, whatever. You have two parents who are at, I don't care, then great, move on to the next question.
Yeah.
Even a question like that can all of a sudden go like, you are not putting my child in hand-me-downs. I had a life of hand-me-downs, and I hated that. I am not doing that to my child. And now all of a sudden, you've opened up the floodgates. All my work, and in that class in particular, the focus, the goal for the outcome of the class is that they will, A, commit to being a united parenting team, B, have had some conversations about where is that going to be easier for us, where is that going to be harder for us, and C, maybe have learned or practiced some of the communication skills that might help you actually move through hard issues when they're hard. And I do a lot of teaching effective communication when I work with parents in any regard, because, we're just people, and we're just coming to this with all of our heartfelt desires for our child to have the very best life.
Of course.
And
yeah.
all of a sudden, like, we're hit, or our parenting partner who seems to be in conflict to that goal.
I think you're absolutely right. The passion behind being a parent and the love for my children is unparalleled by anything else, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I think that's part of the reason it's so, what is quirky or charming or fascinating in a partner can feel completely different when it's the father of your child or the mother of your child. You can shrug your shoulders and kind of live with, like, oh, Rick does this and I don't love that about him. It irritates me. But now when I see Rick teaching that to my child, all of a sudden the steam is coming out of my ears, and every emotion is just rising up out of me. And so, our reactions can be completely out of proportion to what you would from the outside think might be a reasonable conversation.
These are amazing insights, Elisabeth. It's been wonderful. I'm looking at this wonderful book that you've brought out. Could you tell us a little bit about the book and where people can find it?
Yeah, absolutely. Parenting as a Second Language is, the philosophy behind it is the idea that parenting is innate, that we were born just knowing how to do it. It's not innate, never been innate. We are mammals. That means that we learn things from our society, from our community, right? Young monkey mothers have spent lots of time in big monkey communities observing how other mothers deal with their child, how they deal with solving problems and with providing them care. And that we used to have a lot more of that, right? Kids used to kind of grow up. When we were out playing on the street, Mom, I want to go play. Great, take your brother with you. Or you don't have the brother, but now you're on the street and little Joey needs to go to the bathroom and you are the oldest kid around. And so guess what? You are the one who's tramping him back in the house and going, come on, Kelly. And now, you're coming back. And then there's a fight and you guys all have to negotiate the fight. And so we used to spend more time in communal groups, which meant that at our different ages and stages, we were interacting more with kids and trying on the role and taking on those little practice opportunities. Now I give a workshop and I ask parents, raise your hand if the first baby you ever held, or let's say even infant under 1, was your baby in the hospital. But it's about a third to a half. And, I look at that and I think, that's pretty terrifying. You go in, you have a baby, 24 to 48 hours later, the hospital kicks you out, and you are now 100% responsible.
Where can people find parenting as a second language? And if they want to contact you directly, where would they find you?
The book is available on Amazon, and it really sort of walks through with exercises for affections that parents do to do some of the things I've been talking about in terms of like identifying values, and you can find me at my website www.elisabethstitt.com, and the big key here is that S in Elizabeth and not a Z.
And not a Z.
Uh,
Yes, I was looking at that earlier.
right. Yep. So that's Elizabeth with an S, and Stitt is Stitt. And I do weekly newsletter that I put out that is not so much focused on one age group. It's more focused on these big themes, these big topics.
Everybody who's listening to the show today, I will make sure that the links back to Elisabeth are made available. Elisabeth, thank you so very much for spending some time with me on the My Future Business show today.
My pleasure, Rick. Thank you for having me.
It's been fun having you on the call with us today, so make sure to subscribe, leave us a comment, share us with your friends, and book your spot on the show. And if you're looking to create your own professional audio or video presentations, then for more details, visit myfuturebusiness.com/shop.